Good morning. Welcome to the virtual town hall organized by the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, Hong Kong and Macau. My name is Lawrence Liu, and I'm the Deputy Chairman of the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, Hong Kong, Macau. In Hong Kong, we are known as Maychamp. And there is Maybank, as you're aware. Our market cap might not be as big as Maybank, but we are probably as popular as Maybank in Hong Kong. I would like to wish a very good morning to His Excellency, Raja Dato Nushirwan Zainal Abidin, the Ambassador of Malaysia to the People's Republic of China, the Consul General, Mr. Yap Wei Sin, Consul General to Hong Kong, and all the participants to our virtual town hall. Good morning. We thank His Excellency Dato Raja for spending his time with us today, and I would like our Consul General to introduce His Excellency later on. So I'm going to briefly explain the format for today's town hall. First, I'll be welcoming our chairman, Dato Gan, to make the welcoming remarks. Dato Gan is the chairman of Maychamp since its inception in 2014. He's the chairman of HL Global Enterprises Limited, a company listed in Singapore, director of China Yuchai International Limited, a company listed in New York Stock Exchange, and managing director of Hong Leong International Hong Kong Limited. He is a seasoned banker, property developer, and investor and operator of hotels. For those who are in Beijing, who may be familiar with the Beijing Riviera, Dato Gan developed that. He also developed the Grand Hyatt in Taipei and Millennium Hotel in Xiamen for the Hong Leong Group. Dato Gan was educated in Penang Free School and is an graduate of the University of Malaysia. He is an all-rounded sportsman, so he still keeps himself very fit at this stage. After Dato Gan's remarks, I'll be inviting Mr. Yap, our Consul General, to introduce His Excellency. Thank you, and I'm going to hand over to our Chairman, Dato Gan. Mr. Gan, Dato Gan, please.
Thank you, Lawrence. Good morning to everyone at this webinar, whether you are Malaysian or non-Malaysian, and whether you are currently in Hong Kong, in China, in Malaysia, or anywhere else. In light of COVID-19, we are hosting a very special webinar where we bring together, firstly from Beijing, His Excellency Raja Dato Nushirwan Zainal Abidin, the Ambassador of Malaysia to the People's Republic of China. And secondly, from Hong Kong, Consul General Yap, and Dato Sri Cheah and myself. It is coincidental yet timely for me to tell everyone this morning about a prominent Malaysian who over 100 years ago was at the forefront of the effort to create a modern public health service in China. This Malaysian was the pioneer of the modern-day surgical mask and also initiated quarantine procedures that helped contain the spread of pneumatic plague in northern China in the 1910s. This man was Dr. Wu Lian-Teh, the first Malaysian to have been awarded the Queen's Scholarship to study in Cambridge University. After returning from his studies to work as a doctor in Malaysia, Dr. Wu was invited to Northeast China to fight the Black Plague. He was said to have helped save a few 100,000 lives at that time. Cheah and I are fortunate enough to share the same school as Dr. Wu, the Penang Free School. And through Maychamp, we have tried our best to emulate Dr. Wu's vision in bringing honor to Malaysia. Now, let me give a brief description of Maychamp to those of you joining us for the first time today. Maychamp was founded 6 years ago. At the cornerstone of our vision is to promote, support, and represent the interests of the Malaysian business community in Hong Kong, Macau, and Southern China, but also to foster a friendly and welcoming community. We continue to bring members and friends together through rain or shine, and even during this global pandemic, such as through this webinar today. In Hong Kong, besides our monthly happy hour gatherings, we organize various seminars, nasi lemak talks, and visits to businesses and places of cultural or historical significance. There are about an average of 3 activities every month. We also organize annual trips to Malaysia, each time to a different city or an area. All these trips have included visits to commercial and industrial setups and meeting other business chambers of commerce and members of local government. We have also arranged periodic trips to Macau and to China in the past. MACHAM has also been a champion of corporate social responsibility. Throughout the pandemic, we have supplied medical equipment and surgical masks to the socially vulnerable in Hong Kong, as well as to hospital workers across Malaysia, even in the early months of pandemic when everything was actually short in supply. Additionally, there are about 300 students from Malaysia studying at the 8 public universities in Hong Kong. This is a group of outstanding students who have chosen Hong Kong to build their futures. However, only a small minority of these students are fortunate enough to gain full scholarships and help them cover tuition and Hong Kong's high cost of living. MACHAM deeply admires these students, and so in August 2016, we created a fund to provide additional financial support for our young compatriots in Hong Kong. To date, we have received a total of about $8.5 million Hong Kong dollars in donations. So far, we have donated and awarded 58 students with a grant of 40,000 Hong Kong dollars each per year. And this year, we will be awarding an additional 12 students with this grant. These donations have come from Malaysians in Hong Kong as well as others who share MACHAM's vision. We are extremely grateful for your support and are actively working to ensure the longevity of this fund so that we can continue to award these grants to deserving young Malaysians in years to come. It is our hope that one day these graduates will give back to the fund to support the next generation of Malaysians who have chosen to further their studies in Hong Kong or Macau. Later during this town hall meeting, we will be showcasing a 3-minute video of last year's Merdeka Ball, which is held annually in Hong Kong. And at around the 50-second mark of the video, you will see a group of Malaysian students holding our Malaysian flag. Some of these students are recipients of the MACHAM grant. We hope you enjoy the video and the webinar today. Thank you very much.
Next, I would like to welcome Mrs. C.G. Yap to introduce His Excellency. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Lawrence. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Gan, Dr. Sri Cheah, Dr. Lawrence Liu, and the MACHAM team for making this event happen today. Thank you to the Ambassador Raja Dato Nushirwan for taking the time to join us today. My name is Yap Wei Sin. I'm the Consulate-General of Malaysia in Hong Kong and Macau. My couple of minutes this morning are to introduce the Ambassador. His Excellency Raja Dato Nushirwan Zainal Abidin graduated from the University of Wales, Aberystwyth. A career diplomat, Ambassador Raja Dato Nushirwan joined the Malaysian Foreign Service in 1994. He has been Ambassador to Malaysia to the People's Republic of China since August last year. As the ambassador, he heads Malaysia's diplomatic network in China, which, in addition to the embassy in Beijing, also comprises our consulates general in Shanghai, Guangzhou, Kunming, Nanning, Xi'an, and Hong Kong. Mongolia is also concurrently accredited to our embassy in Beijing. Prior to his ambassadorship to China, he was the Deputy Secretary General for Bilateral Affairs at the Foreign Ministry. He served in that post from 2017 to 2019. Ambassador Raja Dato Nushirwan has served in various positions at home and abroad in his distinguished diplomatic career thus far. From 2014 to 17, he was the Ambassador of Malaysia to the Islamic Republic of Iran. He has also served as the Deputy Director General of the ASEAN-Malaysia National Secretariat of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from 2010 to 2014. His other assignments abroad include at the Permanent Mission of Malaysia to the United Nations in New York from 2006 to 2010, and at the Permanent Mission of Malaysia to the United Nations in Geneva from 1996 to 2001. At the Foreign Ministry, he has also served in the Departments for Multilateral Affairs, including in its Multilateral Economics and Environment Division. Prior to my assignment in Hong Kong, I've had the distinct pleasure of working with Ambassador Raja Dato Nushirwan on a number of occasions when he was Deputy Secretary General and I was working out of the Office of the Secretary General. I must admit that he has always struck me as a very impressive figure at the Foreign Ministry, a figure whom many of us in the Malaysian Foreign Service aspire to emulate. So I'm delighted at the opportunity today for MACHAM, the Malaysian community, and members of the business community in Hong Kong to engage and interact with him. So once again, thank you, Ambassador, for joining us today. And thank you, and back to you, Dr. Lawrence.
So I think we learned a lot today. And now I'm going to hand over the Q&A sessions to our moderator, Dr. Sri Cheah Cheng Hai. And as I briefly said just now, Dr. Cheah Cheng Hai is the convener of the Advisory Council of MACHAM, and he's the co-CIO and chairman for Value Partner Groups, a fund management company listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So I'm going to hand over to Dr. Sri Cheah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador, for your very excellent and wide-ranging discussion of the very important topics. And thank you, audience. I think we have roughly 150 people right now listening to us. So, Ambassador, I done some research on you and your mission. It's well known that you're one of the high flyers in the Malaysian civil service. In fact, I'm told by some of your colleagues that your nickname in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is King, K-I-N-G. So, first, we are very impressed. Thank you. And I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of you in public affairs in the future. But secondly, we need to know more about you, not as an official, but as a human being. Where you come from, your education, your background, your life journey. And if it's not a privacy issue, maybe a little bit about your family as well. Can you tell us more about yourself as a human being?
Thank you very much, Dato Sri. I found it rather embarrassing, but nonetheless, I take it in the very good spirit in which those remarks are made. Thank you very much. I've led a very boring life, in all honesty. I was born in KL. I went to the same school, St. John's, for 11 years, from Standard 1 up to Form 5. Then, against all odds, I won a government scholarship, which sent me to the UK, as Will was mentioning. And against all odds, I graduated. And after that, I joined the Foreign Ministry. And to be perfectly honest, at that point, after I graduated, I didn't know what to do. So as it turns out, as a government scholar, I had to work for the government for 10 years. So I had no idea which ministry I should be joining. And I thought that Foreign Ministry sounded vaguely interesting. And before I knew it, they had posted me to Geneva, New York, Iran, and suddenly I find myself in Beijing. So not as a product of design or anything like that. So very boring. And in terms of my family, I think for my colleagues here in Beijing, almost all of our families went back in either late January or February as part of the repatriation process. And unfortunately, they're still there because of flight connections, so on and so forth. So my colleagues at the embassy are putting a lot of pressure on me to get their families back. And of course, I miss mine as well. And in fact, as it turns out, if I may say, my wife delivered our son on the 28th of June. And I had planned actually to go back before that to get myself quarantined, be there for the delivery and then come back. But then there was this outbreak, right, at the market in Beijing. So I thought that my first responsibility, my professional responsibility, is of course to the Malaysian community in China. So I thought that at that point it would not be fair for me to leave my professional responsibility for a personal one. So I've not been able to go back. And so my wife, alhamdulillah, she delivered our son on the 28th of June. And now the challenge is I seem to be missing them much more than they seem to be missing me. So I hope that they'll be able to come back as soon as possible. So I think I'll just stop at that. But to put a long story short, very boring life. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was looking at some publicity media articles about you and your mission in People's Republic of China. I noticed that actually you guys did some very heroic things during the worst days of COVID-19. You were successful in evacuating between 150 to 200 Malaysians and their families from China. What can we learn from that handling of that unusual emergency? What do we need to know about it for future reference?
You know, I want to be very clear. I am not a hero. I was just a manager. The heroes are my colleagues, the 6 of them who actually went to Wuhan when at the height of the outbreak. So I'm just a manager. The real heroes are my colleagues. And as it turns out, I have in my room one of them, Suana. Come on, Suana. Come. This is Suana. The real hero.
Hi everyone, hi Dato Sri, hi CG Will.
Greetings from all of us at Malaysian Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, in Macau.
Suhana went, of course, because she's a fluent Chinese speaker and a variety of reasons as well. But you know, I said that I'm a manager, but at the end of the day, I think all people in leadership positions will know that the most difficult thing, the most difficult decision that you ever have to undertake relates to a decision which involves putting your colleagues in situations of potential harm. You know, because you know there is a human dimension to this. These 6 colleagues of mine, they have families and they have feelings as well. So I took this decision very, very carefully, and it was not very lightly taken. And I mentioned that I don't normally have problems sleeping, even when it comes to the South China Sea issues and stuff like that. But I have to admit that making that decision caused me sleepless nights. It really did. Because as I mentioned, you're putting your colleagues and the whom you know their families in a potential of potential harm. But I have to say that when I asked them to go and I told them the reasons why they have been selected, not one of them said no. So I'm very proud of them. So we set we had 2 repatriation situations in Wuhan, involving altogether 8 of my colleagues. So all of them did very well. So I'm very thankful for them. But you see, we were also very lucky because we have very good and close relationship with the Chinese government, and they really facilitated our repatriation exercise. Of course, at the end of the day, there are always issues. You plan for whatever eventualities, but as they say in boxing, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. So you get a situation where people are staying very far away. They were in Hubei province, but far from Wuhan. And at each place they were in each district or county, they had roadblocks, and people manning the roadblocks may have inconsistent standards. You pass one roadblock, you go to the next roadblock. People at that roadblock may have other ideas, but in the end, we managed to overcome these obstacles. And I must also say thank you very much to all of our partners, our agencies, government agencies in Malaysia, NATMA and Ministry of Health, so on and so forth, and AirAsia. And now, tell me just a small story. People always say that a true test of power is if you are able to stop a plane from leaving, right? So during the first repatriation exercise, one family was not able to reach the airport in time. So it was a question of, do we leave these people or do we don't? Because the understanding was that if anybody comes late, we have to consider the welfare of the majority of the people. So there was a possibility that a few people might be left behind. So one family was late, and so in the end, headquarters asked me to talk to AirAsia as well as the airport operators, whether we could stop the plane from leaving at the prescribed time. And I talked to them, and they were very kind. They said that Mr. Ambassador, we are willing to wait. So in the end, the family did manage to arrive in time and get on the plane. So I was very happy, and I didn't realize that the Malaysian embassy in China had this power to stop a plane from leaving.
Our sincere congratulations to your team and to you for this very impressive handling of a very difficult situation. I now move on to some questions relating to China and Malaysia. Just out of curiosity, have you met the top Chinese leaders, like maybe the president, the foreign minister, and what is your impression of them?
For any ambassador, you will have a chance to present your credentials to the head of state. So in my case, that was the same for me. I did that with President Xi Jinping. We also met as a group with the Premier Li Keqiang as well. But very difficult for you to judge a person on the basis of meeting in a very scripted fashion over the course of about 10 minutes. But I was very impressed with both of them about the positive words they had to say about Malaysia and Malaysians in general, and some of the level of detail that they know about our country. So I know that for both of them, they have been to Malaysia before in this capacity as well as in previous capacities. So we are very familiar to them, and I think in terms of getting access or meeting leading Chinese personalities, it's not a problem as well, because as I mentioned very early on, probably the first thing that I mentioned is the excellent state of relations between Malaysia and China. I have to say that there is, we don't have any problems. The South China Sea, I don't call it a problem. It is a common challenge which both countries need to address. But to the extent that there are problems, some of them are even happy problems to have.
What's next in the bilateral relationship? Will we see visits by Chinese leaders to Kuala Lumpur, or will we see visits by our leaders to Beijing in the coming 1 or 2 years?
Well, it all depends on how the COVID-19 situation pans out. But perhaps fundamentally, we are looking at whether a vaccine can be developed in good time or otherwise. So certainly there is progress here in China and elsewhere. But I think for China, very positive messages that we've been getting from the Chinese leadership, and this is public information as well, that if China develops a vaccine, then they will make it as a global public good, so that they will put at the disposal this vaccine to everyone.
Ambassador, what is your impression in general of the Chinese public's opinion and perception of Malaysia?
I think it's been very, very positive. Of course, looking at some of the emails that come to me, some people will have very specific complaints. Of course, they were supposed to go for a vacation in Malaysia, put in their deposit and stuff like that, and then because of COVID-19, they were not able to get their deposit back, things like that. But there is no structural or systemic problem with respect to the Chinese perception of Malaysia and Malaysians. So I'd like to thank all Malaysians who are in China for playing a very good and useful role as little ambassadors for the country as a whole.
Next question is from Saniza Othman, whose father, I think herself, was a very senior diplomat for Malaysia. What Saniza would like to know is what can we Malaysia do in the light of China's rise as a major power? What can we do to I would say, excel our role, our position?
Very interesting and very fundamental question. The first thing that I want to emphasize is that China is not rising. China is re-emerging. So it's re-emerging. Up to 1820, for thousands of years, China was the largest economy in the world because they had the muscle, they had the innovation. And that's another point. Just to footnote that the Chinese have been traditionally a very innovative society. So what they're doing right now in terms of artificial intelligence is nothing new. They've done it in the past. But they are a re-emerging country. So I say this to my counterparts from the West when they come to see me in my previous capacity and today. They are re-emerging economy, and where China is and where they will be is in the natural order of things. This is how it was and how it will be in the future. So we have to wake up to that reality and accept it. That's one. Two is for Malaysia, since we've established diplomatic relations with China in the past, for the past 46 years, our strategic assessment of China is that it is too big a country to be left out in the cold. The world will profit by a strong, stable, prosperous China within the mainstream of the family of nations, helping to create and support and enforce international law. this is our strategic assessment for China since the establishment of diplomatic relations. And I was since coming here, I've been reading much more than I was before about how China sees itself in the world. And there was a very interesting article. There was a very interesting speech by Deng Xiaoping in 1974 to the United Nations. And it's a very long speech. It talked about very many things, about how it viewed the role of superpowers in the world, the existence of superpowers. So Deng Xiaoping said that China will not be a superpower in the traditional sense of exercising hegemony. At that time, the US and the Soviet Union, superpowers wanted to control the world. So Deng Xiaoping said, by definition, a superpower will seek hegemonic status. And by definition, China will never become a superpower. And he even said that if China becomes a superpower and it tries to exercise hegemony and to bully other countries, and pay attention, he said that the other countries of the world must work with the Chinese people and overthrow the regime. This is what he said. And up to today, there is nothing to suggest that China wants to dominate the world in the way that a superpower would want to dominate the world. Of course, China wants respect. Of course, it has its interests. Of course, the level of respect and its interests are commensurate with its size and the historical role that it's played in the world. So there is not a problem, at least for Malaysia. As long as China plays by the rules, which they themselves help to write, we're fine. And there is nothing to suggest that they're doing otherwise. There is, of course, they of course have problems with their neighbors. And this is a factor of history. This is a reality. As I mentioned, they're very sophisticated analysts. They have a very sophisticated foreign service, and they're more than able to handle these problems.
Well, you are right there on the front line, so you should know what you're talking about. Thank you for sharing. It's been very nice talking to you. I think you are a really excellent conversationalist, and I'm sure our country will see a lot more of you in the years and years to come. I will bring back Dato Lawrence Liu to bring proceedings to a close. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, and thank you, Mr. CG Yap. And unfortunately, we need to make the event to a close. Thank you for all the participants. And please be advised that actually the recording for this session will be available on YouTube, and we'll send you the link when it's ready. So thank you once again. And for those who are not yet a member of MACHAM, we would strongly encourage you to please sign up, support us, so that we can continue to bring along events such as this, which is a very meaningful event, especially when away from home. Thank you once again for the participants, His Excellency, CG, and Dato Gan and Dato Seri Cheng Hai. Thank you very much, and jumpa lagi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.